welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I don't give a fuck about your war.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Escape from New York, which released in 1981. Written by John Carpenter and Nick Castle, and directed by John Carpenter. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Kurt motherfucking Russell playing Snake Plissken. Snake has been sent to New York City maximum security prison in 1997. But while also there, the President of the United States has crashed his plane into the city and has been captured by the Duke, played by Isaac Hayes. It's down to Snake to get in there, get the President, and get out within 24 hours.
Oh, Snake Plissken in my cab? Wait till I tell Eddie. Hey, hang on, Snake.
So John Carpenter actually finished this script before he'd even shot Halloween. And he shopped this script around, but every studio just went, no, it's too violent. We don't want to fund this or finance this or help you make this. Lo and behold, obviously a few years later, with the huge success of Halloween, it was like, hey John, what was that film you wanted to make? Here's your money. Yeah. Go right ahead. And they were like, but you must cast these leading men in your role. Yeah. And John Carpenter was like, no, these are all old actors. Like, I don't want Chuck Norris. Yep. You know, I don't want Clint Eastwood.
Charles Bronson.
I don't want Charles Bronson. Yeah. I want to work with the guy that I worked with on Elvis a few years ago. And at this point, Kurt Russell was like, I really want to be in your film, John Carpenter.
Yes.
Because I want to break away from all the Disney movies that I've been in all of my early career. If I don't break that mold, I'm going to be playing these sort of characters forever. Yeah. So, but the studio was reluctant, but they took a chance on him, and well, Kurt Russell just got instantly iconic in the 80s action genre.
Man, this movie, like, I don't even think I need to be here today. Gary could probably just do this. I could probably just put a sign here that says, great, where I am, and that's it. Like, this movie has been with me for 40 years, like, well, 35, because like I was a kid when I saw it. You know, I was real young. My mum's, left me in front of the TV late one night, and then this film review on BBC Two just comes up, and he starts talking about this film directed by John Carpenter, and I remember that he was underneath this New York bridge. And he's talking about how he's used as a backlot, and he's talking about the city. And for some reason, as a kid, back in the 80s, you just watched everything, didn't you? Just, it interested you. And as soon as it ended, it was like 5-10 minutes long. As soon as it ended, the film started, the music kicked in, and I was hooked. I was hooked on it. I was hooked on John Carpenter. Like, I suppose I saw this, didn't realize who he was. Then, a few years later, I think I caught The Thing, or Big Trouble in Little China, and then I start putting one and one together. Oh, he does Halloween. Oh, I need to watch Halloween. And oh, he did In the Mouth of Madness. Oh, I need to watch that. Oh, did Vampires? Oh, fuck it, I'll fucking take that. Oh, he did this film called The War that nobody ever. I'll fucking watch that shit too, John. Just bring him out, and it just all boils back to this movie.
It does. It's absolutely iconic, from the Statue of Liberty head on the poster.
Yes.
To, I mean, it's a bit like schlocky 80s machoism, dude on the cover with a gun. But yeah, when the film starts and the score hits in, it's very minimalist, of course, as John Carpenter synthesizer. Yes. But it builds and builds and builds as we have Jamie Lee Curtis narrating this intro to us, explaining how the crime percentages rose astronomically in the late 80s. Yeah. And that by the future of 1997, which is now... Yeah. All of New York has been walled off and has become the country's maximum security prison, where once you go in, you don't come back out. And we watch as this presidential Air Force One plane gets overtaken by terrorists as they're flying over New York. And they manage to evacuate Donald Pleasence, who's playing the president. Of course, John Carpenter likes to reuse all of his actors when he can.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what always made me kind of jump back, because you start seeing familiar faces. Every now and again, you get somebody who really outshines everybody else. Like they're a major star. And then every now and again, you get like Buck Flowers. Buck Flowers. Or like I said, Jamie Lee. I loved Lee Van Cleef in this. You know, for me, like I said, I was a fucking kid when I saw this. So to me, when I watched this movie, New York was a fucking prison. I didn't know no better. I'd never been there. You know, 1997 was the future. Like, this was pre-Metal Gear Solid for me. Hideo Kojima was watching this film as well, going, oh, I got an idea for a game, you know? And it's just, everything boils down. And like we said, like Lee Van Cleef, he's walking around like Liberty Sea Island.
Small confession to make.
Yeah.
Like, first time watching it, I thought that was John Carpenter.
Well, yeah, like, you know, in fairness, he is in this film at one point. But I think we got, Charles Cyphers, I think he is, who obviously alerts Lee Van Cleef that the plane is going on. But just everything just looks amazing. We've got Tom Atkins, reporting about two prisoners who've just tried to swim across the river on a little makeshift raft, and this helicopter just comes along, blasts them, and then flies off. This is the future. The police don't give a fuck.
Right.
They're encamped on as a fucking army, But yeah, the Donald Pleasence in the plane gets put inside that little egg-shaped pod.
It is, for me, it is the most ridiculous thing in the film.
Yeah, but it looks so comfy.
Well, it looks small.
This is like the millionth time I've ever seen this movie, and this time I actually just imagined Donald Pleasence inside this pod, like swirling around, like holy shit, like, hit building after building and crashing down.
Tracking Air Force One. He's down.
It's the escape pod.
And we do actually get to that spot where the egg has crashed into the city, where the rescue team have helicoptered in.
Yeah.
Van Cleef's in there, and he's basically just looking at it. He's like, he's gone.
Yeah.
And they end up getting approached by this gang member.
Yeah.
This, like, Sonic haircut.
Yeah, Frank Doubleday playing Romero. I always thought that was Michael Biehn.
Very similar face and voice. Yeah.
But it's the guy from Assault on Precinct 13 who ends up shooting the kid, which is like, another iconic John Carpenter just moment there. And the way he just breaks it down to Lee Van Cleef, like he's in control. You touch me, he dies. You're not in the plane in 30 seconds, he dies. You come back in, he dies.
He reveals the president's severed finger, doesn't he, with the ring to make sure they know that it's real.
It's real, yeah. And so Lee Van Cleef, Hawk just gets his guys out, jumps in a helicopter, they fly off. And we'd already kind of seen Snake Plissken get walked into the prison and just kind of get told to stop. And now we've got Hawk, Lee Van Cleef's character, coming up with the idea of sitting Plissken down and discussing this mission. Oh my god.
It's probably my favourite scene in the whole film. Because the acting here is really good. And it's our first real introduction to Snake, because we've seen like bits of him. Almost like POV is we follow him through the maximum security system before he's eventually halted for some reason. And now he's pulled in, and he explains, like, the president's gone missing, and he's just like, president or what?
Yeah.
Like, no F's given.
No
you
F's.
know?
I'm making you an offer.
Bullshit.
Straight, just like I said.
I'll think about it.
No time. Give me an answer.
Get a new president.
He's already going into the prison. Why should he give a fuck about going in, and rescuing a prisoner who he doesn't care about, who's done this stuff anyway? Like, it's just... This movie's only an hour and a half long, which is so amazing that this iconic fucking brilliant fucking take on the future dystopian that we always believed we were kind of heading to is so condensed into just these guys discussing about a world that like, if you've seen Terminator, if you've seen any of the 80s crazy, radioactive horror war movies they made, these two guys are talking about some shit that's gone down. They've both been in hell, they've seen it, but one guy, Lee Van Cleef, has done pretty well for himself, probably standing on the backs of traitors and shit, because, like, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly we're talking about here.
Right, yeah.
And then we've got Kurt Russell, the anti-hero, Snake Plissken, who...
Well, we find out, like, he's definitely a war hero.
Yeah.
He's, like, 2 times the Purple Heart and all these other things, but for whatever reason has ended up gone to rob a state bank and got caught somehow. Because we find out throughout the course of the film that Snake... He's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Like, in all walks of life. It's like, well, what did he do? Like, how decorated was this person? How far has he fallen from grace? What shit has he seen to make him the way he is today?
Yeah.
And, of course, Kurt Russell said he's based the Snake Plissken performance on Clint Eastwood's like collection of characters.
Yeah, yeah.
And it really, really comes across really strongly in this scene.
Yeah.
I told you I wasn't a fool, Pliskin.
Call me Snake.
And they get him ready. They offer him the pardon, don't they? They're like, we'll let you free. You know, if you get the president, you know, got to get in there. There's this summit going on, and he was carrying this tape. You know, and it's so iconic. Carpenter as well. Like all the Carpenter movies you always watch, you always kind of, he works really well with low budget, guerrilla style. You know, throwing some stuff. So when you see the table of weapons. Alright, yeah, okay, it's not fucking XXX Vin Diesel, you know, we're not talking about the Fast and the Furious just looking at a wall of guns like with Neo fucking flying down in CGI.
But it's just big, bulky equipment.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the motion tracker, and it's like, bonk. Wow.
This is like what we're talking 81. So when they talk about we'll catch you on radar,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
we have to
talking
turn it on and off again.
Bulky props. There's a phone or radio that he uses at the end of the film. He's like 2 hands to hold it. It's like, oh my god.
Hey, that was standard army equipment back
Right,
in
it
the
was,
fucking
yeah.
80s, you know. And that's what I feel like gives it some finesse, because this was the future at one point. So even when he's walking over to the glider and he's getting ready to glide, and this, you know, it's not CGI of him flying into the city. You know, that's Kurt Russell sat in front of a green light while they've got their, like, this is first standard computer technology imagery coming up on the cameras.
Actually, it's none of it is actually computer generated imagery at all.
Really?
Because they couldn't afford that. That's way too
right,
expensive.
Yeah.
So they did an amazing job recreating the New York City sort of set.
Yes.
A lot of it is a model, which would eventually be repainted and reused in Blade Runner, like the very next year.
Yeah.
But in order to get some of that imagery, like on the computer screens, they took a model city and painted it all entirely black, and went in there with bright tape.
Yes.
And gave it the skeletal sort of structure.
That's right.
And then put the camera through it, and it then looks like it's like an old digital monitor.
Yeah, and
that's like very cheap effect, but it looks really good when it's coming out on a monitor in all of the film scenes.
The pacing's just keeping you going. You're not even looking into the background. You want to, but Snake's just in the glider. The music's keeping you going. It's so gentle. You know, you got Lee Van Cleef calling him through like, "What are you doing? I'm playing with myself. I'm going in." The fact that he's got bombs in his neck, like you don't ever have to see it. They just inject him with this stuff, and the way that Snake reacts. And he's like, "What the fuck did you do to me?" And they got these tiny bombs in your neck, Snake. And as they start to erode, you know, the cores will come and then they'll just pop.
And blow your arteries out. Just a tiny little explosion that will kill you slowly. But Snake's already lost his temper at this point.
Yeah, man.
But, you know, he's got no choice now but to go and do this job. And time is running out.
Yeah.
And, him landing on top of the trade centers.
Oh, man.
That's great.
You know, that's a bit touch and go now, obviously. But I still always loved that imagery from when I was a kid. Like, oh, there's these 2 giant buildings in New York City. You know, that wasn't a fantasy then. They were real, but they were utilized. What? He has to take the elevator down to the floor 50, and then he's got to walk all the rest of the way down. So obviously people have tried to use it as like... That kind of is a bit of the problem with the movie, is that the scale of the city doesn't have the population. You know, we do see large groups of people, but they're not really in the thousands. So you get the haunting feeling as Snake starts walking down the floors that he is being watched.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's to be fair. Like, this film creates a really great sense of atmosphere and dread, and it's very moody with, like, Dean Cundy's brilliant wide shots.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that being out at night in this prison city is
right.
the worst idea.
Being anywhere in the prison city.
I mean, of course, for the bulk of the film, it takes place at night. So
Yeah.
you can imagine most people would trying to keep themselves safe and instead of going outside. Because when we do follow him around, you know, there's a moment where he just like sits in the chair in this empty city space, just like, where do I even start now? Like, where do I even go?
That's it. And like, this is East St. Louis, Illinois, that they actually filmed in, because obviously they couldn't film in New York City. But they managed to get to Illinois, and it just turned out that there had been a giant fire like 5 years before, which had destroyed buildings for blocks. And so they were able just to, at nighttime, just get all these great atmospheric shots for Snake Plissken to establish himself. And I feel it, like you would feel it if you're into the movie, that he's there in the city, like you said. He has no idea where to go. He's got the tracker for the president's bar, but when he follows that, he gets into the theater. And this is where he meets Cabbie, played by Ernest Borgnine.
He doesn't necessarily... Well, yeah, he does meet him, but he doesn't stay there very long, does he?
No, Snake doesn't need him, but he, you know, Cabbie's just like, hey, you're Snake Plissken, I know you, and you're like, and like Gary said, like, you're like, oh, he's famous. How do people know him? He's got a gun, you know, he's got real cigarettes, and as he's making his way down into the basement, you get that really haunting feeling, like I said, that there's people watching, or he really shouldn't be going down here, but fuck it, it's Snake Plissken.
Yeah, I mean, he stumbles across like 3 men just pushing around this woman, stripping her down.
Yeah.
And Snake's just like, it's not my problem.
No.
He just carries on. You're just like, man, this world is rough. Like, there's no one coming to save anybody in this prison.
Yeah.
No guards whatsoever. But eventually we hear some punching sound effects. And he eventually wanders into this room and we just see this big figure punching somebody. And Snake checks his tracker and he's like, that's got to be the president. He knocks this guy out.
I knew when I got this, I'd be the president.
Mr. President.
I'm the president. Sure, I'm the president. I knew when I got this thing, I'd be president.
It's a great comedic scene. It really is. I mean, Buck Flower is just excellent in this small role. And he's just like, yeah, I knew I'd be president one day if I got this. It was just laying around. I just put it on. And Snake just smashes it in the wall. So we cut back to those in the office and they're just like, oh my God, the president's dead.
And then, like, after this, yes, you know, Snake, he does have his moment with the night crazies. You know, he's gone outside into the city. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. He sits down and he's watching these guys come around, bang open the sewer lids. And he as he sees these group of people kind of scour the street, he ends up into the chock full of nuts, where he meets, like, I did find this out from another person, that
his then wife.
His then wife. You know, he's got a thing for blondes, Kurt Russell, you can tell. And she gets pulled away. I mean, such an iconic shot.
I think she also played Priscilla in Elvis as well. So yeah.
Nice. But she gets pulled away. So, you know, wherever she's gone, that's bad. That's her dead. And Snake is chased out of the chock full of nuts, heads up into this building. He's using his machine gun, you know, to take a few of the guys out, blows the guy's hand off. Why he needs that giant scope,
I don't know.
I have no idea what he was ever going to need it or to use it for.
Always
it looks cool.
It does look cool, but it's. I mean, a lot of the action in this film is very restrained.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't really have the budget to have like huge firefights or lots of squib explosions or anything.
Or had massive, huge stunts. They got Kurt Russell jumping around doing stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, they literally get him to shoot through this wall, and he jumps through it. And when you see the thickness of that wall, I was like, Kurt, Snake, you probably could have just pushed that wall over.
10-year-old me was like, man, he jumped through a fucking wall, man. But yeah, as I got older, I'm like, I saw it on the big screen in the cinema, and yeah, 4K resolution does nothing to that wall.
No, it makes it look even thinner. But as he's racing to get away, Cabbie pulls up just at the end of the alleyway and it's like, Snake, get in!
Oh, man.
Ernest Borgnine then just rides him away, playing the same music he was listening to in the theater.
Is that guy always that good, Ernest Borgnine?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
he just makes every role so fun, like Airwolf, The Wild Bunch, fucking
Poseidon Adventure,
yeah. You know, and Cabbie. You know, he's like, Snake Plissken in my cab. Oh, you wait until I tell Eddie it's gonna. And I always believe Eddie's not real. I think Eddie's in his head. I've always believed that.
It could be, yeah.
It could be. Like Cabbie's back history. Like, where is he getting this fuel? Does he just cab people around? Is he living in this cab? Does he have his own place? It's like this. Such an awesome kind of back history you could just make up for yourself.
Yeah.
But he gets convinced by Snake abruptly to head to the smartest person in the city, the Brain, and they head to the New York City Library, I think it is.
That's right.
And they pull up to the steps and they walk up and they bang on the door with his shoe, and Adrian Barbeau answers, Maggie. or her bosom answers. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, Adrienne Barbeau's not wearing very much throughout the course of this movie.
She is a beautiful woman. Between this and The Fog, I loved her as a kid.
Oh,
I loved
yeah.
her. Yeah.
Well, she leads them down to Brain, and we're explained that the Duke, number one,
Yes.
literally gifted Maggie to the Brain for all of the talents that he's provided the Duke in terms of getting electricity or power or energy or sustaining
got
basically his mini empire in this prison system.
He's got an oil pump in
his room.
basement,
Yeah.
like,
I guess they struck oil in New
Yeah,
York.
yeah.
The authorities don't know about it, clearly.
man, Harry Dean Stanton in this.
Yes.
Oh, he's so iconic. Like, you could just list Harry Dean Stanton movies all day, and there's probably not a bad role among them.
No.
And the fact, like, you know, he'd go on to do Christine as well
Yes,
as the
yeah.
cop, you know, and he's just so charismatic in this. Like, I'm always on the side that I prefer not the deleted sequence at
Sure.
the beginning. Like, I know it's out there, but
Yeah.
it doesn't do anything for the movie, really.
It doesn't, no. So it was unnecessary. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't needed because there was, like, obviously a history between Snake and Brain.
Yeah.
Where I guess they were on a job and a bunch of their friends all died because Brain, you know, he explains, like, you were late. I took off. Like, probably the getaway driver.
You, me, and Fresno Bob. You know what they did to Fresno Bob? I'm like, no, I want to fucking know.
Nobody knows what happened to Fresno Bob. Do you?
We were buddies, Harold. You, me, and Fresno Bob. You know what they did to Bob?
So amazing. But Snake's just like, yeah, you got to take me to the president. You know, if you do, I'll get us all out of here. I'll get pardons for everybody. You know, you get the feeling like Snake isn't going to keep his word. But if pushed, he will keep his word because, you know, he also gives off this kind of honourable man stance. But yeah, them Cabbie, they jump into the cab and they drive to this like abandoned station. Well, actually, the Duke starts pulling up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills Cop 2. Beverly Hills Cop 2, like, it was, what, the third time I'd watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 that I realised they'd stolen the music from fucking Escape from New York.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, there's this tune, the the Duke's music, and they pull up and they steal the car and they kind of drive off. They had in Beverly Hills Cop 2 when the villains turn up, that's their
the same
music.
tune. Wow. I just love the chandeliers on his car, the disco ball. I'm just like, what is this?
It's fucking Chef, mate.
Yes.
It's Chef.
Chef's been dead a long time now, though, so
Well, he's a cyborg, isn't he? Wasn't he a robot at one point?
he's definitely still dead.
Yeah. But they've got to drive down Broadway, and you don't drive down Broadway.
No, we
Ever.
basically just they have bricks thrown at them, Molotovs thrown at them,
Yeah.
like fire arrows shot at the car.
Well, this is just more build up for this city that everybody that's been sent in here is either a fucking huge criminal now or a cannibal. Mm-hmm. You know, you're either a criminal or a cannibal, and the fact that they've got to drive down there to take the shortcut so that the Duke has to take the long way round, and then they get to this train section. And the crazy thing was, I was watching this, like I said, for the millionth time, and I was like, hey, it's getting up to that bit like in every Metal Gear Solid game that, you know, he just gets to the mission objective and then he gets captured and all of his weapons taken off of him.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Obviously, he finds the president, breaks him free, but ends up fighting a few goons before he's absolutely outnumbered and pinned down.
Yes.
And of course, like Brain and Maggie are both like, oh yeah, he had us at gunpoint. We weren't really going to help him.
Yeah.
So they get taken off and put somewhere. And Brain has the tape, which gets taken off him by Romero.
Well, no, the president still has it because they have that sequence where they've got the president up against the wall and he's still got the briefcase on his arm, and it gets shot by Isaac Hayes because he's just firing off one round from
Just
the
tormenting
gun,
him, yeah.
And it's like, you've got to give it to Donald Pleasence. How good Donald Pleasence is as an actor. Like, you know, Dr. Loomis is one role, but when you see him up against the, you are the Duke of New York. Hey, number one. You're like, man, he fucking.
He's selling it. He's selling it.
You are the Duke of New York. You're a number one.
And they shoot the briefcase. The tape drops out. Romero sees it, and he ends up swapping the tape with Cabbie.
That's right.
For Cabbie's hat. But you got this other idea as well, that the Duke is planning on leaving New York City with the president.
But he needs the plan that Brain's putting together on how to get across this minefielded bridge.
Yeah, how did they get across the minefields to send the paper back so that after they got... Because that's what they said. Oh, yeah, they made their way across the bridge and then they got burned off the wall. And I'm like, what, they shout? As they left? Right. Did you send like 10, 10 people?
Yeah, a bunch of canaries across the bridge, you know, just clear the mines.
Yeah, you did. But yeah, Brain has to go off and get them the plan ready, and so Snake gets woken up by a bunch of the dudes, and he at the moment he's injured as well. He's taken an arrow to his knee. You know, he's missing all of his stuff, and he gets into this boxing ring with this guy called Ox, who was also, well, the character's called Sludge, who was a wrestler at the time.
Right.
And he looks like such a meathead.
Yeah. Well, it's a case now of speed versus strength, and you know, David and Goliath, as they both just start wailing on each other with these spiked bats.
Yeah. Now, I'll go on the limb. I will say this. So, like, people can slate me as much as they want in the comments, but I love this movie, and so it gets a pass. I immediately love the sequel, Escape from LA. And I got to admit, this battle sequence is one thing. I mean, I love it. It's just, you know, two guys swinging at each other. Kurt Russell said in interviews that he almost got his head taken off a couple of times because, you know, they had no choreography. They were just going at it. I do much prefer that basketball shot from Escape from LA. Like, you watch that shot, it's fucking amazing that Kurt Russell just went, you know.
Yeah, I don't like this fight scene in this film. I think it drags.
You watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth. It drags. It's poorly choreographed. It's so, like, I hit your shield, you hit my shield.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat.
But
and again and again. And occasionally, you know, Snake will crumble and roll over and get back up and counter, and but then they do it again.
Yeah, but it's also broken up quite nicely because obviously we
do
follow
keep cutting
Brain.
away. Yes,
you know, we follow Brain, who takes Maggie to where the president is, and they kill Romero, and Maggie shoots the other guard.
That's right.
So, you know,
they're
like
about to find the president and escape because they still want to get out of.
It's an hour and a half, so like we are going on a quick pace, and so when you get that quick hit from, I was almost gonna say fucking McCready then. I was almost gonna say
a year later.
Yeah. When McCready, Kurt Russell, Snake fucking nails Ox in the gut with the basket, the baseball bat, and then whacks him in the back of the head.
It's the fact that it sticks in his head as he just falls against the ropes, and then Snag,
and he hits the catch on
the button on the guy's wrist,
which alerts, you know, the cops that actually Snake's still alive. Oh, he's the only one who knew about the secret catch. I'm like, it's a giant eagle's head with a button. I would have like, these guys must be dumb as fuck. But the guys had already been alerted by the prisoners that they had the president. They'd taken out Snake, and so, you know, they figured like the army's planning on going in there and just laying waste to everybody
if needs be. If
needs be. So now they've been told to stand down. Lee Van Cleef's got out the giant fucking
the walkie-talkie
to tell them to stand down. And Snake's managed to get back to the World Trade Center because Brains figured out that's where he landed the glider. Yeah,
and they all get up onto the roof. But the gangs up there have already cut the cord and sent the glider in it is another ropey-ish effect as it falls from the trade center, but yeah, it's fine. Like it gets the message across clear enough. But yeah, they end up bunkering down, firing off a few rounds, and then they run back into the elevator.
Yeah, but they get down to Brain's car, and I was watching the film and I was like, hang on a minute. So while they were up on the roof, Isaac Hayes, chef, has come along and gone, hey, that's Brain's car. Let's take out the engine, move it over here, leave it running, and get a guy to climb into the engine cab
and surprise
them. Instead of just like me waiting until they come down and go, brrr, you know?
I mean, it certainly sends a message, though, doesn't it?
It's so great. They run up. Is this your car? Yeah, they run up, they open the door.
I mean, they probably had a lot of time. I mean, Snake probably lost most of his time getting up and down the Trade Center twice.
Exactly. And there's this guy just underneath the car, like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him.
I do want to point out another flaw. I mean, it's not a flaw. It's a visual thing that's on screen for less than a second.
Yeah.
But it's when they're on the roof of the center and the elevator doors close.
Yeah.
You'll see the hands on the sides of the doors come through on each side. I'm just like, where's their fingers there? It's like, oh, it's because it's not automatic. It's not a real door. It's just somebody sliding the wood across.
Hey, you work with what you got.
You do, and it's fine.
And so they managed to get out to Cabbie, who's waiting outside, and they jump into his cab, and that's when they realise actually Cabbie traded his hat for the tape from Romero, and so now Snake has got both tapes, one real, one fake. And Brain's shouting at him about where all the mines are, and they're racing to the bridge, and the Duke comes down, jumps in his car, and they start racing the bridge. I mean, I love this last action sequence. The music's fucking pumping. They get onto the bridge, and, you know, Snake's doing the best that he can, but he hits a mine, blows the car in half, kills Cabbie. Jog right, you fucking asshole.
It's so sad. Like when he goes over and just checks on Cabbie, and I'm just like, you know what? With the cab split in two, I'm kind of glad Cabbie went with his cab.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Kind of beautiful. But it's one of those things where you become aware when you rewatch this film is that every character or every particular character that meets Snake for the first time go, Snake, I heard you were dead, or Snake, I thought you were dead. It's a signifier that character is not going to make it to the end of the film.
No.
And of course, Cabbie was one of the first ones to say that.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, so did Maggie, and so did Brain.
Yeah.
And whilst they're making their way across the bridge, they're yelling at each other, and Brain's like, "No, I said left," and then boom, goes up in a mine. And Maggie is just like, life's not worth continuing now without her brain. And so she takes the gun off Snake. They share that last look.
Yeah.
And Snake's like, do it. I understand. And she just fires her gun repeatedly at
Duke.
And eventually the two of them just collide.
Yeah.
And she's sent flying. And interesting bit of trivia here for you was that there was an inserted shot of Adrian Barbeau covered in blood laying underneath the car.
Yeah.
That wasn't originally in the edit.
All right.
That was actually filmed in John Carpenter and Adrian Barbeau's home garage. And they just put the car there, put her underneath it, covered it in blood, and went, that's going in the film now. But it was another, what would become a director that actually gave him that note. It was a 15-year-old J.J. Abrams who was at the studio where his dad was a producer watching John Carpenter's Escape from New York edit, and it was a young JJ that went, actually, Mr. Carpenter, I think you need a shot to show the audience that she's dead. And John went, okay. And he went and did it. So it's like,
fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Fucking history in the fucking making there.
But there's, just to take that a little bit further, though, because JJ was a fan of this movie.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So much so that he homaged it in Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Because the title or the poster for this film has Statue of Liberty head in the city streets of New York, and it's not in the film.
Yeah.
So when he did Cloverfield, he was like, "Yeah, that head's going in the city. I'm going to do it."
Yes. It's fucking amazing. I mean, this whole end sequence, Snake's managed to get the president to the wall. You know, they managed to get the president out for a second. And then Duke turns up with his gun. He fucking shoots the guards up there. So it's him and Snake having this last little...
Snake's got a minute and a half left before his explosives take him.
Yeah, the music's pumping. You're thinking, oh shit. And he manages to start going up the wall. And the Duke's about to shoot him. And the fucking rappel wire stops. You know, and then all of a sudden Donald Pleasence comes out with an M60. And just fucking lays waste to the Duke. I mean, oh my god.
It's great.
It's great.
He starts shouting his lines right back at him.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And then we watch Snake get up to the top of the wall. He comes down. He takes out that guy at the end, doesn't he? Because he fucking... You watch it. Kurt Russell's coming down that wall and he drops a hell of a drop but the guy who's obviously just helping him rappel kind of just takes a fall because he didn't realise Kurt Russell was going to drop.
The guy with the electronic devices neuters the explosives.
Oh, not before Hawk is like, give me the tape, Snake. Give me the snake.
Yeah.
And he takes the tape from him, and they fucking stop the explosive. Snake watches as time go past, and you do question it when you watch Escape from LA as well. Was the bombs actually in there? Was it all a ploy? We don't know because they used that trick in LA.
Well, there's also now a pretty poignant moment of the film, which I don't know. It kind of it should have been more poignant than it maybe is. Where you know, the president, he's just like, right, I've got to go live on television in like 2 minutes, and he's got his aides shaving him and cutting him, and he's just like, Snake, I owe you, this country owes you, and all those that died. And he's like, so what can I do for you, Snake? Snake's like, oh, I just want a minute of your time.
Yeah.
And Snake's just like, I just want to know how you feel about all those that died to get you here. And he just gives him, like, honestly, it just sounds like the bullshit rhetoric. They're in my thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
You know? And Snake's just like, fuck you. And walks off. And then it cuts to the president doing his speech, and he's playing the tape. And it just starts playing the music from Cabbie.
See, I think I know what you mean, but I mean, for me, like, when I first watched it, I didn't really get what that moment was between Snake and the president.
Sure.
It was the moment after that broke me down, and you know, after everything I'd been through the movie, the dramaticness, the craziness, when that music kicks in the end and Donald Pleasence looks like down, like, what the fuck, and Snake's pulling out the tape. That's what I got. You know, as a kid, I was like, oh, Snake's just pulled a fast one. But as I got older, like I said, I got what Donald Pleasence was kind of, you know, emoting to me. You know, oh yeah, I am really sorry that these people died as I'm looking in the mirror, not even looking you in the eye. You know, I just want to get back on TV because, you know, I'm happy that I'm safe. And that kind of reminds me of how he was at the beginning, where he's just like, get me to the pod. You know, it's the president or no way.
And everyone on his plane went down and died.
Yeah, which would be, you know, led into Escape from LA when they do it in that, but it doesn't come across as well in that one. It's just a rehash of this. You know, the whole moment between Snake and Lee Van Cleef at the end, where Lee Van Cleef's like, you're going to kill me now, Snake? Like, could he take Snake? You know, possibly. Does he want to die? He wants to work with him. He thinks he's pretty fucking cool. He could probably kill a lot of people with Snake. And Snake's just like, I'm too tired. Just leave me alone.
I'll think about it.
I've got at least 24 hours of freedom. I mean, technically, as a fan, I went out and bought the comic book. So he gets about 5 minutes after this.
Before he's sent off to
they chase it. They literally, in the comic book, he escapes from fucking like 5 different places before they throw him in Siberia, which guess what? He's going to escape from. But the music just kicks in, and the credits come up, and the movie's over, and it's just so tightly packaged.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's just,
Well, Ian, what were your favourite scenes from Escape from New York?
You're going to really fucking ask me that.
Well, you can just say opening credits, end credits, and everything in between if you want to.
I can. Everything. Just, oh man, it's, like, I don't know which one to pick. Obviously, Adrienne Barbeau's like right up there. Like that purple dress. Her walking through the library with that light.
Yeah.
You know, the chandelier. It's such iconic view. Everything in the streets, everything. Gary, just go.
Oh yeah. It's such a wonderful film, packed with so many memorable scenes. I'm just gonna talk about Ernest Borgnine. I really think Cabbie is one of my favorite characters that he's ever played. He is like so different to everyone else in the film. Like, I mean, clearly he's crazy, right? Because he is just happy, and nobody in the film is even remotely close to how happy he is in this film. He is so wonderful, and like his relationship with his taxi is just wonderful. It's really beautiful, and so all of his scenes, fantastic.
Yeah.
George Buck Flower, like his scene, like, I'm the president, just like he's only got like 20 seconds of screen time, but he just nails that one comedic moment to perfection. I think my favorite part of the film is which I think is the strongest, is the opening, like the Jamie Lee Curtis narration, the text, the music, the watching the Air Force One get taken over, watching Snake go through the justice system, watching him get sat down with Hawk and explaining his mission, all the way to him landing in New York and first just wandering the city streets like, where's the president? Which direction am I going in? All the way up to when he gets into the theater. All of that for me is just solid. It just, you're in. The film so easily just takes you all the way through to you're in New York, and it's such a contrast as well between, you know, visually, like all the light and gloss and clean, like outside environment compared to New York. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved all those moments. And I think this film has got so many great lines.
Yeah.
But I think it's the line where Snake says, the president of what? in his first interrogation with Hawk. I just thought was great, yeah. So many great scenes. Ian, I think we all know the answer to this one, but just checking.
Yeah, I couldn't make it any more simpler, could I? This movie will go down in my personal history as one of the greatest movies of all time. It's one of John Carpenter's strongest. You know, like a year after this, we would get The Thing with Kurt Russell and John Carpenter. So like those two movies alone, you could probably never watch anything ever again and just live your life with that. It told us a story of the future of 1997, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it was scary what New York was going to become, and in a weird way it kind of is. I don't know, is it a prison? Are we in a jungle? Like, fucking little bit of trivia for you if you didn't know. You know, they went to actually get Snake's outfit ready for Escape from LA and they couldn't find it.
That's because Kurt Russell took it home with him and he still fit in it. Yeah. But they decided to change the costume for the second one anyway. Yeah, Kurt Russell has said that it's his favourite film that he's been in, and that Snake Plissken is his favourite character he's ever played.
I was there waiting for Ghosts of Mars to be Escape from Mars, and it never happened. And I'd like a remake, a rehash, whatever, you know, say what you want. Kurt motherfucking Russell in John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. High recommendation for Escape from New York. It's a John Carpenter classic, packed with great atmosphere, memorable characters, decent effects, and action, all delivered on a low budget. Dean Cundy photographed the film beautifully. Great contrast between the prison island and the New York outside. It's well lit, moody, wide shots, controlled camera movements, keeping you engaged with the action. Iconic performance from Kurt motherfucking Russell as Snake Plissken. It's comical, but it's played straight, and it's very effective as the take no shit, give no fucks anti-hero. The ensemble cast does a great job bringing the world to life. Brilliant performances all round, and one of my favourite Ernest Borgnine roles is Cabbie. The effects are cheap, the props dated and ugly looking, but they work, you know, and it's admirable how well the effects team pulled it off with that low budget. It's impressive. It's all very minimalistic, and I think it's one of the film's strengths. Just as the action scenes are spaced out enough to let the characters breathe and react. Great score by Carpenter, always delivers the perfect soundtrack that sets the mood, keeps the energy building as more layers are added. Love Carpenter's synth sound. If you're a fan of Carpenter films, this is a must-watch. If you like the apocalyptic settings, strong anti-heroes with a good story, with a good pace, this is a must-watch. New York City has become the only maximum security prison for the country. Once you go in, you don't come out. Until today. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.